Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Matt Hines with you for another Nothing Burger podcast. So today, I was thinking about something. It seems to me that the pathways that lead to living greener, they also lead to wellness more often than not. And likewise, the path to wellness mostly leads to living greener. They're like complements. Okay, so before I get into that, let me just say a couple of things about this show. I don't know about this name, the Nothing Burger podcast. It doesn't really make any sense. So I might be changing this up a little bit. Also, the quality of these videos I think it's really poor. I don't know what happened with my connection, but there's nothing I can do about it at the moment. I can't figure it out. So in the meantime, this is just the way it's going to be. But I'm committed to every Wednesday. I'm gonna put out a podcast. So right now, actually, if you go over to YouTube, I'm also doing this on YouTube. The quality is better on YouTube. So check me out over there, or just listen to the audio. All right. So living green to live well. I want to first of all, what does this mean to you? Living green to live well. What comes to mind right away when you hear that? I know that some people, it might turn them off. That might offend you. You might feel like you're skeptical about the whole idea of living green. So please, if that's how you feel, I would love to hear that feedback. But also, if it's something that you're passionate about and it's something you're actively doing, if you have just a short story to share, I would love to start a discussion around this. What does this even mean to you? Okay, I want you can you please think about this for a moment? And I'm going to play a song for you by Skibi. It's called Sensima. And please take this moment to comment.
Long came to see. Body too correct. Oh no, very man don't forget.
Comment.
Body too correct. Say she love me.
Please comment on the video.
Why they for Sensima? I want $1 Sensima. This kind dance with the dance.
Living green to live well. What's that mean to you? Living green to live well. What's that mean to you? Okay, so you've had a moment to comment. Thank you. Now getting back to the topic, and I'll elaborate on this a little bit. What does it mean to me? Well, I think the first thing is we have to talk about happiness, and because I think that's what we're after. When we're thinking about living green and we're thinking about living well, we're striving to be happier. And this is really difficult to define. Happiness, what does that even mean? But there's actually some really interesting research being done on happiness and coming to understand what that means, how it differs from person to person, but also how there are also some things that pretty much every single person, it makes them happy. So that's really what we're after. But also we have to define some terms. What do we even mean by living green? And to me, we're talking about, we could be talking about sustainability. We could talk about longevity. It's about balance. And we're especially concerned with ecological matters. We want to leave this planet at least as good, if not better off, for the next generation of humans, but also other animals on the planet and species on the planet. I don't think any one of us would want to know that if we know that we are doing something that is like harming an animal, that we don't even need to do that. then we wouldn't want to do that, right? I think even though I know a lot of people are not as, some people are very passionate about the issue of being concerned about the environment, other people not nearly as much. But I still think that we wouldn't want to purposefully destroy nature. I think we want to build nature, and I think that we can. So humans are not inherently bad for the planet. We actually know what to do in order to make the planet even better, even more ecologically sustainable. But unfortunately, from a lot of measures, we're going the opposite direction. So, and it's a lot to ask. I'm going to get to the challenges in a minute. Before I get to the challenges, now let's talk about wellness. What do we mean by wellness? This is also very difficult to define, and a lot of it has to do with happiness. But with wellness, we're also talking more about it's a very personal thing, and it's psychological as well as physical, and it can also be spiritual as well. But the physical part of it is what is easiest to measure, it's most noticeable. And of course, if you don't have mental health, then it's going to be a lot more difficult to have physical health. And also you're much more likely, if you have mental health, to have better physical health. So wellness is a little bit of a holistic way to look at your own body's and mind's ability to attain happiness, I guess you could say. And if your body is not well, then it's going to be a lot more difficult to really have happiness. So the challenges, just with like any other topic I've touched on, it's time, it's money, and it's knowledge. So I think some people, it upsets them to think about living green and even living well, because they think like, I'm already working so hard to put food on the table for my family. I'm running around to do this and that. I would feel guilty if I took any extra time. And I'm pinching pennies. So I can't justify paying that premium on local food. And I need to drive in order to get to where I'm going. So like, if you're already in a tough spot, and then somebody says to you, oh, well, you're driving too much, so you're being bad for the environment, you're not green, then yeah, that's going to rub you the wrong way. And I just want to say that, like, I really empathize with a lot of people who would want to make a change, but it's just not possible. They can't pull it off. And, we could talk about the bigger picture stuff on how to support policies that will help us all, so that we have less people in our society that are running around like crazy just to get the basics. But that's for another discussion. For here, I want to mostly focus on like us as individuals and what we can control in order to live green, to live well. And knowledge is another part of it. So I'm not going to go too deep into this. I'm just going to I want to give a couple of examples. Couple simple examples. So biking to work. Now, again, not everybody has this as a possibility for them. And the way that American streets are designed, a lot of us, it's like a dangerous, high-risk activity to try to, if you were to try to ride your route on a bike, it just ain't happening for a lot of us, unfortunately. But if we do have that opportunity, then, or I guess it's more like thinking of taking any opportunity you can to bike or to walk to work, or really take any opportunity to bike or to walk in any activities that you have to do for your day. Because it's like hitting two birds with one stone. You're transporting yourself, you're doing something for the environment, or you're decreasing your environmental impact, and you're also getting your exercise. So it's something to consider. If it's a possibility, as much as possible, locomoting, human-powered locomotion is you can do that. Another example is eating local and eating fresh, where, again, a lot of us, we just can't justify the premium. But just consider the triple bottom line. And for those of us who do have a little bit more, we can pay that premium, and it's going to pay off. It's going to pay off not only for our own physical bodies, but it's also going to make us, and just a tiny impact, but a positive tiny impact on the environment. Not only that, when we talk about the triple bottom line, the third part of it is society. And this is where, we're going to be helping our local economies and to increase food sovereignty. If we invest in this, if we make this investment, and yeah, it'll cost a little bit more to support your local farmer, possibly the small scale farmer. But if you can make that sacrifice, it does come back. It's a long-term investment, but it actually does pay off big time. All right. So, the last consideration is DIY, doing it yourself. And this doesn't necessarily mean, this could mean like, building your own house, but it's more like doing as much around your own house as you can, because this is another opportunity for some physical activity that is also going to, and I don't know how necessarily this applies to being greener, but it's about wellness, and it's about autonomy, personal autonomy. So I just thought of that as another example of, I guess, thinking about, we have our daily chores, like even washing dishes. Hey, that counts for something in terms of our physical activities. We should feel good about that. Sweeping, gardening, mowing the lawn. The more you can take, and there's an example of where you can be a little bit greener, where if you do push mowing, and if you do as much work by hand in the garden, out in the yard, as opposed to mechanizing it, then that can be impactful, and it's a physical activity. So, okay, so that's really the point I wanted to make today. And if you're listening to this point, again, please comment. What does it mean to you, living green to live well? Do you have any thoughts on that? So to conclude today's podcast, I'm going to play another song for you, Janelle Monáe, Cold War. Thanks for listening.
Let's suppose that you're writing a really
Quick
important
ad here.
email to a colleague.
Thank you, Kevin and Diane, for checking in today.
Or a post on Facebook that all your friends will see.
So you think I'm alone, but being alone's the only way to be. When you step outside, you spend life fighting for your sanity. This is a cold war. You better know what you're fighting for. This is a cold war. Do you know what you're fighting for? If you wanna be free, below the ground's the only place to be. 'Cause then there's a life. You spend time running from depravity. This is a cold war. Do you know?
thanks for checking in, Mara and Harold. Good to see you guys. That's a banger right there. So I'll leave it at that, folks. I'll be back with you next Wednesday. This is a thing every Wednesday, the Nothing Burger podcast with Matt Hines. So check us out. And in the meantime, keep it real.